siwezi kubali watu wa Mount Kenya tudanganywe tena, tujitenge na Wakenya wale wengine. Maendeleo ambayo inakuja hatutaki zikuwe zinaangaliwa na lens ya ukabila. Sisi tunataka kuwa Wakenya.
I have seen an argument yesterday, somebody arguing that for call of unity of our region we can be isolated. Why would anybody isolate us of being united? Why? How can unity be a bad thing? Is unity a bad thing?
There is nothing to gain in negative ethnicity. There is nothing to gain in tribalism. There is everything to gain in unity of all Kenyans. When our Fura in Murang'a must always feel home being in Murang'a.
All right, so those are the three different leaders. Have different scripts that they are reading, but all of them talking about unity. Dr. Kanyude, he has made a few observations here on especially the sharing of resources, and I'm just wondering how much of that is factual, because you deal with resource allocation. You chair a committee in the House that also looks at the budgets for the respective departments. So what are you doing to ensure that there is fairness of distribution of resources, that the majority does not outwit the minority when it comes to sharing the national cake?
Sam, I've listened to Philip very, very carefully.
My name is David.
David. That is Philip.
He might say David and Philip are the same.
Okay, it's David. Now, I've listened to him very, very carefully. And I'm a bit surprised that we are speaking that way in 2024, this year. Because I am sure this is what the language that Kenya was speaking before the new constitution was put in place. And the new constitution brought in a clear dimension of equity in terms of development resource sharing. But we are also speaking in a situation where we have the constitution that guides how our government is formed. The constitution doesn't say that when you win an election, you now look for anybody to form the government with. It's very, very clear. And the problem we are dealing with here is the problem of sharing resources. The imagination that Mount Kenya takes, or rather certain parts of this country take more resources than others, I think to me, and I've been in the budget committee for the whole of last term, and right now I'm the chair of the committee on agriculture. We do not look at where does the money go. In agriculture, actually, we do not look at where the money goes. We already have many programs and projects that are cutting across the entire country. And these projects are designed at the technical staff level, where they look at the value for money. How does this investment turn around development? And if you look at most of for instance, the provisions of the Constitution, we have devolution. Devolution has a formula for sharing the resources that they are apportioned by Parliament. And in this country, every part of Kenya is getting their money, their share of the devolved funds. You just spoke about CDF, which is a very small percentage of what probably could be managed by the individual members of Parliament. But the greater proportion of resources basically is shared based on the output, the expected output of these resources. You may not say that now that we are in Mount Kenya. Let's say, for instance, I am from Meru. I'm in Mount Kenya, not because I applied to be in Mount Kenya, not because I did anything different from anybody, any other Kenyan. But I believe in Kenya as a country. I believe in unity of this country. And if you look at the development within my constituency, for instance, I have only 9 kilometers of tarmac in 2024. There are other areas where they have 350, 400, 500 kilometers of tarmac in our constituency. So those disparities are there. And if you look at how did it happen, what brought about some of these disparities, I think as a country we need to think a lot more on how we can get a formula that places the investment to the development of the people. What is important is development of the people, is not really the region. And also, we do not just put resources to waste. We put resources where we can also get an output. I would like to compare my constituency with some constituencies in Nyanza and Central. I mean, Nyanza and the Western provinces. I've traveled those provinces by road, and I think they have better road network line than most of Meru. So, and we say we're in Mount Kenya. So, it doesn't mean that the fact that you're in Mount Kenya, you are more developed. The fact that you're in Mount Kenya, you are more advantaged. It doesn't mean that. I think what we should be speaking as a people is how do we unite Kenya around the resource sharing? And there are several fronts that have been already, tried out. Devolution has been tried out as an option. Well, we've been trying to look at the affirmative way of, sharing resources. For instance, the upcoming budget has looked into sharing the money for electrification through the constituencies, which I believe is a better way of doing it than always trying to lobby for more, resources towards putting up power in, electrification, connecting people to the national grid in our backyards. That now you can make a better decision based on the number of villages that are not lightened and number of towns that do not have street lighting and so on and so forth. Those decisions are the ones that need to be devolved, and the resources follow the decisions that we are talking about. The idea of looking at regions as having benefited more than the other, I think we should go back to our constitution and ask ourselves, is something wrong about the constitution? Is something wrong about the way we form our government? Is something wrong about the way we do our planning? Because planning is done nationally by everyone. In fact, some of those people who lead some of the most, the ones that have been come up as most, most preferred development blueprints are Luos. Professor Anyang was one of the people who led the production of Vision 2030. And in this particular respect, Vision 2030 is applying across the board. It doesn't mean that it's applying only in Mount Kenya region or in other areas. I hear Honorable Chieng's notion of where you have, for instance, ministers, you may have a little bit of better development in their backyards. But we see development spreading across the country. We see application of equity. We have also seen that in the current constitution, there is provision for equalization fund. And this equalization fund is targeting bringing up some of the areas that probably were left out in the previous development orientation. However, we were revisiting the formula for equalization funds. And even though we revisited the formula in terms of, instead of grouping those regions by county, we said it should be devoted to the sublocation. Unfortunately, the formula itself is not right, because when you look at what is looked into, what is considered in equalization fund, is availability of existence of a hospital, existence of a school, water supply. You can have all those, and the area is not developed. Why? Because people go out of their way to try and put up schools using their own resources. They go out of their way to try and make sure that at least they are able to access some of these facilities. So what is important here in this particular conversation is, does the government of the day do its duty as per the Constitution? Okay. And then, if you look at what happened in the last government, through the same voices and same intonations, there was a complete removal of government from its core voters, those who put the government in place, to the opposition. And that's why the people of Mount Kenya got annoyed with the arrangement and had to do something about it.
Sorry, how did that happen?
Handshake. The coalition, the
handshake between
Raila Odinga and
what was the impact of that?
The impact is that the development was swayed to a lot more to the Nyanza region. And
who did that?
The government.
Oh. No, the reason I'm asking this is that you have explained that at the National Assembly there's no skewed distribution of resources of development. But now you're saying because of the handshake, development was taken to areas like Nyanza.
It is a reality, and I am sure.
So how was that?
We will not accept it here because of the kind of orientations we have in terms of.
So what I'm saying is, you were in Parliamentary, yes?
Yes, I'm in.
Were those projects voted for in Parliament?
The projects were voted for, yes. The budget was done, yes.
Which project?
But the budget was done by people who are right in terms of the arrangements then.
Which project?
I remember the...
So if that was possible...
I can give you a specific example. Let me give you a specific example.
Yeah.
there is money meant for, in the Budget and Appropriation Committee, meant for budget, for public participation. It's a very small, little amount of money that goes to certain counties every year. You realize in some counties, because of the arrangement, they never received that money in the way they were supposed to have received. It was given probably to an individual who distributed based on the relationship between himself and the Budget and Appropriation Committee chair. So things were not done
that time or this time?
Yeah, last time.
So you're saying there's a kitty for public participation that is allocated to someone based on the relationship with the chair of the budget?
Precisely, that's what happened last time. I'm citing a specific example.
And what did that money do?
And how much is it?
It's a little, but it's 100 million then.
100 million shillings. Yeah. So where did it go?
I'm saying that in that, what is supposed to happen is that it's supposed to go to all the counties in Kenya. And in counties, the members of parliament of that particular county decides where that money goes, based on the public, what the public says, basically. At the end of the day, you realize that decisions made within the arrangements straight the way that money.
There's something I'm not getting here. So these resources for public participation, what is the purpose of that money?
It's basically to engage the public.
So it's like facilitation fees for...
No, it is to engage the public in participating in the budget-making process. That's basically all the money.
Let me explain this to you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You see, every year, since 2013, the budget committee is required to go around the country when the budget is being made.
Yeah.
It turns out that when they go out there, the public requests for some things to be considered, to be done. So what Parliament did is that every year, there's some 2 billion shillings put aside. So that 2 billion.
Yeah.
So that when the committee goes out and there are some urgent or needy requests made to the committee, then the committee has this 2 billion that it can resort to so that the issue is sorted out. Now, to operationalize this, like I told you, I sit in the budget committee. Last year, this 2 billion was distributed to 16 counties.
Yeah.
With each county getting around 100 million, 120 million. Okay? I want to give you an example so that we don't split hairs on this kind of a matter. It's a very small matter, Sam. Last year we went to Siaya County. Siaya County has 6 constituencies. This is the way we receive the money in Siaya. Out of the 6, every county got 15 million shillings. 15 million shillings. Okay? Now, the money, for example, that was allocated to Kenya, we just allocated to give seed capital for building an NCPB depot that we don't have. 15 million shillings can't cause any disequilibrium. This year, Mwenje will tell you, the participation in Nairobi was done in Nairobi just 2 weeks ago. Yes. The report presented just 3 days ago in the budget committee. And they had this issue. They have 17 constituencies sharing 200 million shillings. How much is that?
100 million.
No, it's 200.
Yeah.
How much is that for every constituency? So that, in my opinion, cannot cause any issues the way the Honorable Kanyude wants to explain. So what you wanted to say, which I just want to finalize this matter. So the issue here, just to understand what he's saying, is that, for example, if there's a member in the budget committee at that time who was close to the president or was powerful in parliament, probably someone decided that these 100 million shillings for my county, if it is Nyeri, allocated all to my constituency. That's what I think is trying.
There's something that Honorable Cheng is not saying.
Sorry.
During these meetings, people say their proposals. That was my point. Yes. People bring about their proposals. This region, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the budget committee picks up these proposals. These proposals, therefore, feature in the future negotiations for development of the region. So if no meeting is held in a county, when there is such a provision to bring the budgeting process to the county, then it means that county is left out of such an opportunity.
That's not true.
All right. Just one question before I get to you, Honorable Mwenje. So when all this money, so public participation has happened and people in Uganda are saying this is what we want and 50 million shillings is coming, does the House vote on it?
Yes, it comes as part of the budget.
Okay.
I mean, if it's done honestly...
So it is still clear...
If it's done honestly and the way it was intended, then that's the way it should work. And like I've told you, like, for example, what was appropriated last year for Ugenya, we already have money with the NCPB. It didn't come to me. It's already the NCPB.
That's fine.
They're going to do this. But the issue that has to be cleared.
Honorable Cheng, I'll get to you. Honorable Munja has not spoken since we came back.
In a while, there's a Kenya Kwanza battle going on between me here.
And you hold
more importantly, let me pick from that issue. You know, and I want to show you the unfairness of how Nairobi at times you get the bad end, because we've got 17 constituencies and we get the 200 million. So it's quite unfair. But more importantly, one of the things that I want to state right from the onset is that appointments that are done after elections are based on how people voted. Mm-hmm. That's why you're seeing when the president decided to pick more from Mount Kenya and Rift Valley, it was because that's where his vote basket came from. One of the things that the Honourable Member Ochieng here has said, and I've heard him complain very ardently saying that the Mount Kenya team got a lot of share of seats and chairmanships, but he's one of the problem. He's contributed to that problem. As the whip of Azimio, and I'll tell you this, when the numbers were calculated immediately after the election, Azimio had the majority. He was part of us. He had the chance to be a chair, to have this seat that Mutunga has right here. If we had allowed Azimio to remain as the majority as it was after the election, then even this budget, making this budget, would be a process that would be undertaken by Azimio, because we would have the chair, we would have the majority. We would have taken the chairs of all these seats. More importantly, we would have taken even the oversight the other side. And I have a perfect example to give you. Here in Nairobi, the governor is from UDA. Yep. But the majority of the legislature in Nairobi, the county assembly, are from Azimio. So what happens? The chair of budget in Nairobi, the chair of finance, and the leader of majority come from Azimio. The speaker comes from Azimio. So what you have in Nairobi is that we have to negotiate. In fact, it's something that we are now talking, we probably need a law. Because now Nairobi has given us a scenario where what happens where here's a governor, he's elected, he has his own manifesto, but the executive, the people who make the budget, come from the other side. How do you ensure that how does the governor deliver on his manifesto? So we had that opportunity. So for me to hear Ochieng here complaining that those guys, he contributed to those seats moving to that side. He should have remained in MDG that was in Azimio to ensure we have the majority. And today, I would be the majority whip, not the minority of the other side. And
getting to the question, you have your chance to reply.
Of course, I will.
Getting to the question of what Rigathi Gachagua is raising about when he speaks, he's talking about unity of the mountain, and when he keeps quiet, there is a problem. Do you see that problem, especially when it comes to the region feeling like it's being secluded, whether it's by leadership or economically? What DP Gachagua would be alluding to?
I think he has an argument there, and then I have some facts to give you. During the Handshake government, and that's why I'll disagree with the Honourable Mutunga, he said the development went to Nyanza, which is true. There were some projects that went there. But we had even the port that was being done there, and the jetty, I think that's what they call it. And the roads. And all that. And the roads that were done.
You name them.
Yeah.
They were not supposed to be done? Or
name them.
My point is, with the handshake allowed us to break those barriers that were there. It allowed the president to discuss with a 4 Vs where where he felt that for the first term, no development went to that side. But let us look at what happened in Mount Kenya. We had the Mau Mau roads that were being done. We had the dams that were being opened the other day. Here in Nairobi, we had an urban program for upgrading roads. When this government came into power, all this has gone away. You keep hearing complaints of projects that money has been diverted, Mau Mau roads have stopped. The Nairobi urban improvement of roads that was happening, especially on the Eastland side, that went away with this current government. So for me, I can feel we have lost. I wouldn't speak so much for Mount Kenya because I'm a member of parliament from Nairobi, but as we look at the budget, it is obvious that there are certain projects that existed from the previous government, which have now been lost both in Mount Kenya and here in Nairobi. So I think when you see maybe the deputy president complaining about some of these issues about unity in Mount Kenya. I think those are some of the issues he's trying to highlight. But more importantly, we don't have room. I don't think the Deputy President has the laxity of talking about one community. I think he can address matters, and we have members of Parliament from that region who can address the issues that are affecting that region. And I think those are best placed to speak on that issue.
Because now you speak about members of Parliament being best placed to speak about it, and you're saying that resources of projects have been taken away from Nairobi and Mount Kenya. It is still the House that you sit at that is supposed to be voting for projects or for resources. The Deputy President does not know that?
You know, you ask a very good question. And I'm hoping at some point you'll be moving to the finance bill, because there's some words I wanted to use there, but I'll use it here. We as the House sit and appropriate these funds. We determine where they're supposed to go. But unfortunately, we've gotten to a point where our members of Parliament are not following their conscience anymore. They're not using their conscience anymore. So you have somebody in the executive who's guiding, who determines where all these resources go. So we are unable to determine, to make that decision. The budget committee will sit, and they've had, they were on the ground, we had public participation, and members contributed. But you will see when the report comes back, so many of those things will be changed. And we'll be playing to the tune of what the executive want us to do, rather than what we as members of Parliament, who have a mandate directly from the people, can do. So unfortunately, it's not something that we can do. And I'm the deputy whip of the minority side. There's the word minority. We will have our say, we will contribute. You will see us giving proposals. This year, we intend to go further. We've always been challenged by the government side. And unfortunately, the way we are crafted in this country, we don't have an opposition. We don't actually have an opposition. What we have is a majority and a minority side. They've challenged us. We come up with an alternate budget, an alternate finance bill. But we don't have the resources, we don't have the technical capacity to actually do that. But we do have some proposals
Even if you came
that we intend to give them.
With an alternative finance bill, why would you take it?
But the
point being, it will still be shot down. But it is important for Kenyans to know that we are giving them certain options. That we think, if you want to raise revenue, this is what we think. We can take this approach rather than this approach. So ours is suggestions, and someone once said the majority will have their day. We end up having our say at the time when it comes to the floor.
I'm getting to you shortly, but Honorable Mwanje, how many members do you have?
When you look at the numbers, the decision that was made by the Speaker, we had the 166 for Kenya Kwanza and about 153 for Azimio. So those are the numbers as per the records so far. But between me and I and all Kenyans, we all know there are quite a number of members of Parliament from the Azimio side who moved and have opted. You have quite a number from Jubilee, quite a number from ODM.
How many members do you whip?
That is my secret. Why do you want me to reveal my number? I have to be secretive. Otherwise, these guys will go poaching. Mutunga just admitted on public television it is his intention to weaken the opposition. He just said it right here. So we have over 100 members. Let me just say we have over 100 members in the Azimio coalition who we talk to and we discuss matters with. Let me leave it at a vague number for now.
Vague number. You don't have to speak.
Before you...
Sorry, Honorable Mwanje. So these of 100 members, where will they be when voting on clauses of a finance bill be?
Now, when it comes to, usually the second reading is to me, isn't really where the work is. It is during the third reading, during the committee stage. That's where I really think the value of us as members of Parliament are able to come in, because we vote on clause by clause. Now, I'll be honest with you. I won't tell you we're going to vote no on the entire finance bill. There are some provisions in this finance bill that I'll admit here, honestly, some of them are good, but quite a number of them I don't agree with them.
Where will they be?
So those members will be on the floor. We will whip them. But based on interest, you will see the votes changing back and forth based on how every member is informed. But I can assure you one thing about Azimio members. We will be voting with our conscience. We will vote on what we believe is right, and what we don't agree with, we will reject it.
Okay.
I would wish that my colleagues on the other side would be willing to do the same thing, where they'd agree that if there's something that we can unite, let us not play to the tune of what the executive is saying. Let us do what we believe should be done. The issue of resources, as you've spoken, I just wanted to mention on that issue because there was the issue of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. For us in Nairobi, it doesn't matter. It favors us either way. In fact, Nairobi is the one place where I'm assured that my constituency will increase population every day. There's rural to urban migration happening every day. Right. If we can invest more resources here in Nairobi, based on the numbers, but also based on where we can ensure there's more revenue that can be generated. What am I saying, for instance? If you build some tarmac roads in some of our constituencies in Eastlands, where we have roads, where we have apartments, we have residences, we have schools, and all that, it improves those places. Okay. It means more people can move there, more people can rent out those places, more tax is generated both by the county and the national government. So for me, I always feel that this argument of 1 man, 1 shilling should also consider where are you putting this money? Can we put these resources somewhere you will reap more?
All right. Dr. Kanyuitha, you wanted to respond. Something very concerned?
The issue of budget and the role of Parliament.
Yep.
Budget begins with a budget policy statement. Mm-hmm. What is determined at committee level does not deviate too much from what is already provided for in the budget policy statement. And going backwards, we need to ask where does the budget policy statement come from? Treasury. But Treasury is informed by the sector hearing groups. So the sector groups basically can give their proposals, and then Treasury does fix the ceilings. Now, when it comes to development of our backyard, that is an issue that also influences the voting. And in this case, it very much depends on what kind of projects have been identified for the area based on the potential of those projects, based on the viability and feasibility studies already done for those projects. So you don't place projects anywhere just because you want to have them. You place projects where you will have maximum benefit. Most of this money is borrowed. Most of the development resources are borrowed. So we are not able to raise enough to service our needs, and therefore, whatever is earmarked for development, in most cases, we look for it from outside. In that case, we must be able to rationally, place this money.
And about that perception of skewed distribution of resources, how then can Parliament cure it?
That issue of hearing, budget, but the public participation in the budget, people needs to be listened to. It's an opportunity to listen to the people. This is the constituency, the county priorities are picked. And at the end of the day, I believe the budget committee should be able to pick out what the people say during these hearings, and then see how we can negotiate with Treasury to have these issues factored in. That's how we can develop a region. You know, as members of Parliament, we have our own interest. I would like my backyard developed so that I can be voted in next time. But when you talk to an entire county, they will be able to tell you exactly, if you put a hospital in such and such an area, we would benefit the entire region. If you do this road, you will benefit that region. Those are the voices that we need to listen to, because that's the opportunity that people have to participate in the budget process. It's a very important exercise that has not really played this role very well.
Okay, even though now it appears that the much that can be achieved from there is up to 2 billion.
No.
Because Sam, I don't know why we are missing the forest for the trees on this matter. Can you hear saying that this 2 billion shilling?
It's not 2 billion. I'm saying what the people say during that particular convening, which can only share 2 billion. But the people bring their proposals for the region. They will not bring proposals knowing that there is 200 million, 100 million.
Here is the question that I want both of you to clarify. So the budget-making process starts with the budget policy statement, which is coming from the National Treasury,
exactly.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So at the end of it all, there will be a budget reading, which for this year to be next week on Thursday. Again, it will be from the National Treasury. The expectation is that it has considered all the input from Parliament and the people. But essentially, what power do the people have while participating to alter anything so that then you can cure this from both at the public participation level but also at the parliamentary level? What about you?
No, thank you so much, Sam. I don't know whether I should respond to him first, then I come to your question.
Carry on.
You know, Sam, I've said this so many times on Citizen that I sound like a broken record. In 2017, I ran an MDG, and the then NASA campaigned very hard against me. In 2019, I ran a by-election, Mark. You are not in Parliament. The whole of these things today you call Azimio. We used to have 20, 30 MPs campaigning against me. As I won the by-election, I came to Parliament and joined NASA side, voting with them all through. In the last election, you and I were in Azimio. But that whole Azimio brigade, the one that you see in Parliament today from Western, came to campaign against me. And you understand that today. So there's no day Azimio will benefit on my vote. Not a single matter. You know, when you prick us, we bleed. You know that.
But you campaigned with us.
No, we couldn't because...
So you tricked us.
When you came to Nyanza, and probably you never came there because you're fighting for your seat here. When the Azimio brigade came to Nyanza, they said Nyanza was an ODM zone, and therefore anybody not knows them. And the Azimio leader came to my constituency, campaign against me. And that's why I believe he shouldn't benefit from my vote. Now onto the serious
very
issues.
Heavy.
Yeah. Now onto the serious issues here today. The Honorable Kanyude has told you clearly how the budget is done. It wasn't intended that way, but even today, Parliament is almost at the tail end of this process. And so to even assume that the Budget Committee can make these very, monumental decisions on budget, I think it's not. You're not being straightforward on this matter, because you just admitted yourself that you chair a committee, and they present those who come before the Committee of Agriculture. That's the Ministry of Agriculture, and everybody under it would come before you. Yeah. But by the time they come before you, they already have prepared what you'd call a draft budget with the allocations of figures that this will go to fertilizer, this will go to seed. You don't do it as a committee.
It's true.
They bring it to you, then you check whether the budgeting process they have done is the right thing. So Parliament doesn't allocate figures and numbers. These are done initially. There's something called sectors, the budgeting making process, and clusters.
If something was wrong, does Parliament have the power to change it?
No, we do. Yeah. We do have the powers to change. And that's why, you have to agree with...
Therefore, Parliament takes responsibility.
It should. Yeah. It should. That's why I agree with Honorable Mwanje here, that there are times when we should be able to. But there's something that is fundamental about governance. You can't be going around the country to look for votes, win an election, and then you can't decide. And that's something that we should never, ever assume. When someone becomes president, he comes with a manifesto. The government is his government. That's why he fights to have numbers in Parliament, so that he can influence things. That is the reality of politics. And this is all over the world. And so I don't think we can blame anybody if he decided to do his budget or that budget that way. But it's something that Honorable Kanyude spoke about when we started, about our constitutional requirements, about equity. And we want to miss out some of these words, but our Katiba talks about them. Ethnic diversity, taking care of marginalized groups, taking care of the disabled persons, taking care of the gender. These are things that we should look at always when we're working on the budget. And that's why I told you that historically, the reason people fight for president in this country is that they think that once they get the president, they can develop their own regions. That's what must change. And that's why I believe that we must build Project Kenya. If we come to work within the constitution... Yes.
So what are you saying? Because you make a case for you win an election so that you can influence.
Yes, so that you can govern.
Those that have won the election and are influencing, you're saying that they're skewing development.
No, that's what I'm making to you, that we're not working within the constitution. When the framers of our current constitution saw this, that from independence to 2010, there was that skewed allocation of resources.
And so, still going on under the new constitution.
That's what I'm trying to make, Sam. And that's why you even asked about Mount Kenya, that we have refused to live within the current constitution that says, yes, you have your manifesto, but the manifesto that you have should be the manifesto of the country now that you're governing. And therefore, even if you're going to influence the way this works, the influence should be to ensure that your manifesto is being implemented equitably. And so that, just to answer your question again, the role of Parliament, for example, should be that if in case any committee of Parliament comes before the Budget Committee or before Parliament and says that our budget was 1 billion and we see that out of 1 billion, you've given 400 billion to only one region, then you should be able to say no. Take some of these, take to another region. Some of these, take to another region. And that's where Parliament... No, we are not able to because of the numbers, as it were. And because of the influence of the executive in Parliament. Today, I can tell you this without a shadow of doubt, that the hand of the executive in Parliament today is too heavy to a level where some people, you get calls, you get these things happening. And this has always been so even in the last Parliament. So there's a way in which Parliament is failing in its duty to budget. Me being part of that Parliament.
Thank you for saying that.
Admittedly, that is a way in which us as Parliament, we are failing in our role to ensure that our monies are being allocated equitably to every part of the country. There's a way in which we are failing. You saw when we were doing the appointments of the ministers, and we vet them. But we know very well that, this is skewed. It's 22 people, it's 20, cabinet of 22. 2 regions have taken half of it, and we still pass it. It's a failure of Parliament, that I can tell you.
So what are Kenyans supposed to do? Because, look, like he says, you are elected under Azimio. You cross the floor to join Kenya Kwanza. One would hope it's I don't know, for better management of your career within this Parliament. But now you're also complaining that you're not able to play your role independently as a parliamentarian. So where should a parliamentarian be?
I think it's an existential issue. And that's why I'm saying admitting the fact that at some level, as Parliament, we've not done what we're supposed to do. I believe that if Parliament were to take over its role seriously and we became independent, which is impossible, by the way, in my opinion, then things would be done like in the rule book. But we are human beings.
So we have Finance Bill 2024 that is under consideration currently under public participation. The chairperson of the Finance and Planning Committee yesterday spoke about a specific tax, that is motor vehicle tax, and he was explaining, saying everyone is opposed to it because it's just about to raise 58 billion shillings, but nobody is talking about the expenditure because the expenditure is 3.9 trillion shillings. Everyone wants some resources going to some projects, but they don't talk about raising the revenue. Dr. Kanyuthia, so reflecting on what the House will be doing in the next few weeks, whether it's consideration of the Finance Bill or Appropriations Bill 2024, do you think there is any possibility that at this stage that you can change the Finance Bill based on what Kenyans are saying, while also reflecting on the expenditure side?
First of all, Sam, we shall look at the report from the committee, the Finance Committee. Because Kenyans made their proposals to the committee, we will look at what kind of ideas they brought in, what kind of changes they have proposed. We are also looking at what the Kenyans are saying through media and through other fora, because there has been a number of meetings and Kenyans have spoken. And then we shall make a decision based on how logical or sensible is what the Kenyans are saying. Remember, last time there was the issue of the housing levy, and it went to and fro, and 3% until you settled at 1.5%. At the end of the day, actually, most of what was agreed upon is what Kenyans preferred in their submissions.
Is that so?
That is their position. So when it comes to the finance bill this time, we shall look at what have the majority of Kenyans said. What does the report say? What does the report propose vis-a-vis what are the Kenyans saying? Is that a correct position or not? And then we shall vote.
You see, you said that the decision that was taken by Parliament last year was what Kenyans had said. That is not correct. Majority of Kenyans that appeared for public participation are opposed to affordable housing levy.
It is the Kenyans those who appeared in the public participation that proposed 1.5%. Initially it was 3%. And moving it from tax, over
90% rejected it. They said they didn't want it. Parliament voted to reduce it to 1.5% and remove the cap of 5,000 shillings.
So basically, Parliament will vote based on what? You see, we look at our backgrounds, where we come from, what have the people said about this issue, and then...
so what are the people of Tigania West saying about motor vehicle tax and then the tax?
I've interacted with a number of people from Tigania West on the motor vehicle tax. What the people are saying clearly is that we should not levy on the first car. Any other extra car, yes. But on the first car, we should encourage Kenyans to own cars by removing that particular levy.
So don't levy the first car?
The first car, yes. So after the first car, you are levying now luxury, because cars are not bought basically to... You see, our transport system, public transport system is not very well organized. You can be very late for an important occasion. So the idea is to make sure that people get where they want to go. They have been able to buy cars.
So how do you get that voice to the decision table in Parliament?
We will debate in the House. We will say exactly what our people have advised us. We will make these proposals in the House, on the floor of the House, and I believe the decision will be taken.
The Finance and Planning Committee will come with a report and a list of amendments to some of those clauses.
Sure.
Any other member may come up with their amendments.
Yes.
So what if the Finance and Planning Committee does not come up with a proposal to amend to say only levy the first car?
Then if it's not in the report, the basic thing is that I will introduce it and bring an amendment.
You will?
Yes.
That's a commitment you're giving here?
Yeah, that's precisely what I'm saying.
What is the chance that some of those proposals will succeed, Honorable Mark Mwenje, based on experience?
When it comes to the issue of the finance bill, I feel like we are back where we were last year. Last year's finance bill was trying to raise an additional 211 billion. This one is trying to raise 377 billion additionally. If you look at this year, based on our collections, our target, if we meet our targets, we still have this month left. We're supposed to collect about, is it 2.6? I'm not sure we'll get to 2.3. We might go to get a shortfall of maybe about 300 billion. So this finance bill wants to take us to about, is it 2.9 billion in terms of collections? Trillion, sorry, 2.9 trillion. I'm not sure. To me, I think we will not just miss that by a country mile, but we'll miss that by, with acres, or whatever you want to call it, which will be huge, because I'm not sure that the way the proposals have been put are going to work. More importantly, let us look at this finance bill and the proposals that Kenyans have been putting forward. They don't want this issue that is affecting bread. Why are we moving from zero rating to exempt, which the impact means you can't claim input VAT. This is motor vehicle circulation tax. Let's not forget your phone. Right now, when it comes to data charges and telephone, excise duty is moving from 15 to 20%. Transfer of money, excise duty, that is being increased as well. And we all use M-Pesa. These are the proposals that you've had Kenyans speaking about. There are so many that are there. Kenyans have put forward those proposals. Unfortunately, I'm not convinced, and I'm not convinced based on something that you put today, this morning, that I watched the news. Because the chair of the Committee of Finance was today saying that if you remove this motor vehicle circulation tax, we're going to lose 58 billion. Already I'm reading his mind. He's not listening to these Kenyans. And public participation in this country, unfortunately, the way it is put forward is that you participate. It doesn't mean we have to agree with what the public is saying, which is one of the things that I feel. While the drafters of our constitution of the view that Kenyans should show up in a room, give their views, yeah, and that's the end of it. Can we take a vote? Can we look at what have Kenyans said about this motor vehicle tax? What have they said? If we can find that majority of Kenyans have said that this ought to be removed, then surely that is something that ought to be removed. My concern is that we will have the finance bill that will be there. It will be tweaked a little bit, and that will be the end of it. Mutunga's proposal makes it a bit better because you'll find most Kenyans own one vehicle, and right now owning a car in certain areas is a necessity. It is a tool of trade. So making people pay that additional tax, which, by the way, I remember it was in Kibaki's first term where we removed something that used to be called road license. Those of us who can remember. And it was put into the fuel levy. I feel like this is being brought back again. So it's another form of double taxation because it existed under fuel levy. Why is it being brought back? And yet Kibaki cured that problem in his first term. So to me, the finance bill is one thing that I would ask each and every Kenyan out there,
Right.
everyone who is out there, talk to your member of parliament. I've spent the last 2 weeks, including yesterday where I was in my office with over 300 people. And I kept asking each and every one of them, what is your view of this finance bill? I did not get one person who told me to vote in support of the finance bill. I couldn't get even one person.
And they
I told you,
informed.
and they're informed.
Yeah.
Because they've all been following what's on TV. Thank God for the media, because you've broken down this finance bill quite well. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't do it, Kenyans wouldn't know. And it's something that I must applaud media houses, and you need to continue doing that. There's a statement I want to pull out. Remember when we were reading our oaths of parliament, there's a statement that says there, Mark Mwenje, this and that I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of parliament. I wanted to pull out that one statement. The drafters of this oath anticipated this position that we're in, where members of parliament would be caught in between, trying to deliver maybe what the state would want, what the government would want, what the executive want. This line gives a member of parliament a way out. That I have to sit down and look at my conscience, speak to the people, and do what I feel is right. I told you there are certain good things with these finance bills. These are digital taxes coming in 5% for especially people who are doing delivery, some online services that are being done, delivery of food, rentals, and all that. Those people escape the tax bracket. President once said he wants to widen the tax base. I'll support this clause. This is a good clause that needs to be done. There is an eco-levy fund that's been added for some of these imports that are coming that are going to affect some of our that have an impact on climate change and all these things. So you just have to choose on which items where you're going to put that eco-levy. They only disagree, they've put it on diapers, and I think that shouldn't be on, we shouldn't put that on diapers. But there are certain items that I feel, this is fine, this is okay, you can do this. And more importantly, it is on imports. It means if you can manufacture these things locally, that means we can promote our local production. It also proposes the issue of when you're calculating the period of tax, you know, when you need to file your taxes. So let us remove this issue of weekends and holidays in terms of computing. That means you have now more time. You have more time to file your taxes. When it comes to VAT registration, move from 5% to 8%. So there are some good things that are there. But the bad things are the ones that are really impacting on ordinary Kenyans. When we want to force all Kenyans to be on e-teams, that means we're going to hurt the mamambogas and the small people down there. When we decide that we're going to increase charges, that anytime I send you money now, not only am I going to pay the excise duty, which already exists, now we want to increase it, but now I want to put VAT on top of that. That makes business more difficult. You're going to force us to go back to a cash-based system. Mm-hmm. Rather than where we've been heading, where nowadays everybody moves around with a phone without cash. And but if you take us this way, what you're going to force us is go back to hiding our money under the mattresses, and unfortunately when we do that, we're going to kill our economy. We must make sure that we protect our Kenyans. The president visited the US. This is what I would have wanted to hear. Do you know how much an avocado goes for in the US? It's $4. One avocado. He came back and told us, we've gotten money we're going to build that road going to Mombasa. We have some investment that is going into Coca-Cola and all those things. And that's good. But if you want to help Kenyans, you want to increase, let him come back and tell us that out of these $4 sold in the US, $1.5 will go to the farmer here in Moranga. And then you as a farmer, you're going to pay some taxes on top of that. So that by the time you take your $1.5, so these $2.5 covers a bit of tax, a bit of transport by the time it gets to the US market. Those are the things that we want to hear. That way we would be saving Kenyans the pressure that we are putting them under with this finance bill. And more importantly, Sam, this finance bill is talking about hitting 2.9 trillion. We are not ready. And we will be back here, Sam, next year at this time. And we will not have collected that money. In fact, my fear is that if we continue this way, then at a certain point, people will start running away from business. And we might find ourselves now collecting even less than we've been collecting.
Can I say something?
You know, I was just calculating the price of an avocado. $4 would be, if you had to use the rate of 135 shillings, that would be 540 shillings.
Correct.
Kamoja.
Yeah.
One in the US. In fact, Sam, let me just add just a bit. This circulation tax, 2.5% you pay is about maximum. So about 4 million is where you pay 100,000 Kenya shillings. That's what we're going to tell Kenyans. Anybody who owns a matatu, any matatu you're seeing plying the routes here in Nairobi, is worth that 3-4 million. So you're getting 100,000. Anybody who has these big cars that you're seeing around, it's 4 million. It's 100,000.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to ask these Kenyans to do. Let us go to that US, where the president came from, because 100,000, you're talking about $800. If you go to the US today and you tell everyone, now you're going to pay an additional $800 for your car, there'll be riots in those streets. They can't. They can't afford it. Okay. How are we going to get Kenyans to pay an extra 100,000 every month?
Sorry.
I mean, every year, on top of the burdens that already exist. We just put them housing levy. They are barely recovering from the housing levy the other day. SHIF is coming. That's another deduction that is already there. How are they going to recover when we put them this 100,000? In fact, what those insurance said yesterday is exactly what is going to happen. What happens is that for these vehicles, we'll now start taking third-party insurance so that we can do away with this, with this tax.
I hear you. Ashwa.
No, I just wanted to say, first of all, that for me, I'd imagine that this year we'll not have a finance bill. We didn't need one. After what we went through last year, we would have just said, this year, we are not doing a finance bill. We'll try to implement what we passed last year through this very difficult situation. Number two, I believe that the motor vehicle tax is ill-conceived, ill-advised, must be aborted. We can't have the motor vehicle tax. It is something that we can't allow this country to have. Because if you allow it today, tomorrow someone will come and put it at 3-4%. But fundamentally, my colleagues, members of Parliament probably drive the biggest cars.
Yeah, sure.
But I know most of them pay their insurance through installments. If your vehicle is worth 10 million, 8 million, every year you pay 400,000 shillings in insurance. Yeah. And most parliamentarians pay this through installments. Yes. Tax is not paid through installments. There are people who own their car, they are pensioners. The car they have, they use it to go to pick medicine in Kisumu, pick medicine in Meru town. I mean, it is this whole motor vehicle thing, I think it's terrible. It has to be removed. We can't even amend it. We just have to advise government that this all was ill-conceived, has to be removed from the books. Number two is some basic principles of taxation that we need to deal with. Just a few months ago, by the way, Sam, we passed the taxation policy in this country, in Parliament. And one of the things they talked about is predictability, ensuring that people know what our tax regime looks like. But if we keep changing it every year, we don't give room for it to mature, then people investing here will not come because they don't know what we're going to bring up next year. I want to believe that those who are in the policy-making circles of the president should understand his psyche. He wants to build this country. He wants this country to have more produced for exports. But you can't grow this way. That last year, we reduced taxes on oil. This year, we are doubling it.
Right.
How do you build an economy that way? Last year, we reduced taxation on imports. This year, we're introducing an eco tax on everything. You're not promoting production. I want to advise those who are listening. This whole finance bill of this year is ill-conceived. Right. Should be withdrawn so that we allow the finance act of last year. See how you can ensure that you are collecting more from it. Because again, sometimes you put us through so much debate, so much fire. Like, look at what you... Last year, Sam, you had I've seen you also having another debate tomorrow evening. Big debate on Finance Act. But when you now ask the Treasury mandarins, how much did you collect? They tell you we fell short. At that time, they said, this is the surest bet. Number three on this matter.
Right.
I want to plead. we should try to avoid or reduce the influence of IMF and World Bank on our economic policy. It's taking us astray. You just read some about education in this country. The headline, I think,
yes,
of one of the dailies. Penyude here will tell you that when they're at the university, they used to eat for free. The hostels were free. In fact, they would invite their girlfriends and relatives to come and have lunch with them in campus. During my time and Mark's, we used to cook in school. Now, our brothers who came behind us can't even cook. They don't get enough help to make them stay in school. You've seen some of them being killed by sponsors all over the place because they can't afford. Children trying to survive. And then IMF insists you must introduce these cost-cutting measures in the education system. You must, take this particular education system. So parents, something that's happening these last 2 years, Sam. Yes, you're going to pay 40,000 or 80,000, but a child comes home with a fee structure of half a million shillings. You're a parent who has never even owned 100,000 shillings in his hands. You've worked your ass off to get your child through high school. Then unakujiwa na fee structure of 500,000 shillings.
You can't pay.
We are doing it the wrong way, in my opinion. So, and I wish we could sit back, those in Treasury, the President's economic advisors, so that we look at how we are trying to fund this economy. Aren't we shocking it? Aren't we putting too much steroid in it? So at some point in time, the body will reject. Right. This motor vehicle tax, this tax on bread, we have now even doing tax on transporting sugarcane from the farms, reducing the farmers' money that goes home. It's going to hit at the core of the middle class. And what Mark Mwenja has spoken about this morning is not far off. We are quoting a revolution. You cannot tax our pay slips to the skin. No.
So tell me, what will you do? Because out of all this eloquence, what do you do?
I've told you, on this matter of the finance bill, I'll vote against it totally. I will not even pick and choose.
I've gained a vote. I'm very happy. So he's,
so what strategy?
He's using his conscience.
What strategy for Azimio?
What we have is that at least we've had public participation. We wanted to allow the public to have their say. Now, what we have as our strategy is that we don't want this issue to be a matter of Azimio. That's not what anytime we try and make things that way, it doesn't work. We don't have the numbers. We need to engage our colleagues on the Kenya Kwanza side. We need to sit down and tell them, we need a bipartisan issue here. And we've done it before with other matters. It's time for us to even engage our colleagues across the floor and make sure they understand what it is we're saying. Some of the issues that we're talking about here, that you've had Ochieng mention, the austerity measures that IMF are giving us, we can't agree to some of these things. In our current 2024-2025 budget, we're talking about 1.8 trillion going towards servicing our debt. We need a better strategy from our Ministry of Finance. How do we reduce what we are paying? Because this is where the pressure is coming from. Sam, for you to understand what I'm saying, we are probably going to collect about 2.3 trillion. That's my estimate. Yeah. If we do better, I mean, the better for the country. But we're paying 1.8. Meaning you have 500 billion.
To do anything
500 billion is what is remaining in Kenya.
To steal, to steal part of it.
This is where you had the counties were giving them 400 billion. Yeah. So let's say national government pays 1.8 trillion. Counties will give them 400 billion. National government has 100 billion. That from what we collect. This has to change. All right. So we need a better strategy.
I hear you. We are coming to the end of the show. But Dr. Mutunga, with all this feedback, so then what action do you take? As a member of parliament, but also coming from the Kenya Kwanza team.
I think we will look at the finance bill very, very carefully. And I would like to appeal to the members of the Kenya Kwanza to listen to the people. It is very, very important that we look at this finance bill with a lot of objectivity because introduction of, sometimes you realize that maybe the government is looking at where is the money. Because if the service sectors post their reports, they normally declare so much profit. So the government feels like we can get some more money there. But unfortunately, any charge, any cost you introduce is transferred to the people, the consumers. So we are overburdening the consumers. Again, overburdening the pay slip, I think is also, because people have responsibility even of their relatives. and therefore the disposable income will reduce so much that they will not be able to continue supporting people. So we will have a lot of disparity. I mean, and people feel very desperate. And I think it is likely to cause a lot more problems than solutions.
All right.
And I don't think it is likely to give us, we are not likely to hit the ceilings. Even then, I don't think we'll be able to hit this. Because exit from performance, for instance, if it is in the business sector, the more businesses you close, the more people you send home, and the more you cannot also pay taxes. All those tax possibilities are not there, and the business will shrink. It means the revenue base also shrinks.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kanyuki Mutunga, Mark Mwenje, Mheshimiwa, as well as Mheshimiwa David Ocheng for making time for us. Unfortunately, we are out of time to take a look at the feedback, but we'll be sure to share it with our panelists here in studio to think about it for the next 2 weeks. Bye for now. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again soon.